Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Doctorate, and today we're going to be going through some of the best dog foods that we found on the channel in 2024. And so I hope everyone is having a wonderful start to 2025. We reviewed so many foods. I think there were over, like 75 videos that we made last year in 2024. And there were some good ones and there were some bad ones. And so today I'm going to recap some of the high scoring foods that are available in my Pet Foods Scoring 7, 8, 9, or 10 playlist that highlights some of the best ones that we found. Now, these foods were done by request. And so these are foods that you guys brought to me, and we ran them through the Pet Food Scoring system to see how they stacked up to some of the key nutrient requirements for optimal nutrition as set by the standards in small animal clinical nutrition. So obviously the search does not stop here. Once we find these lists that are nutritionally balanced, then we start looking at other factors that may be important to us, like ingredients, are they sustainably sourced, the price points, all those things. And so this is the foods that scored the highest just based on some of the nutrition factors alone. And so we're gonna go through those today. You guys always ask me for the best. You guys always ask me for an exhaustive list. I put them in the playlist, and it's always important to remember that these foods and formulations change. And so these were the foods as the formulations were in 2024. You always wanna go ahead before you purchase a food and rerun the numbers and take a look at them, because formulas do change. And so let's get started, and let's start out with a number 9 on the Pet Food Scoring system, and that is Square Pet. Now, Square Pet had a bunch of different options that you can choose from, and so it is always important that you look not just as a brand in general. And so we don't want to say, oh, we don't feed XYZ brand because the brand is bad. That's not necessarily true. There may be some winners and losers, and we have found on this channel, absolutely, there have been some winners and losers within a line of food. And so there were a couple different varieties in the Square Pet line that we did take a look at. And all these videos are available if you want to watch them in their entirety in the playlist. But the one that we found that was the best was their skin and digestive support. It did rank a 9. It is a dry kibble, and you can absolutely check that out if you think that is something that you may want to consider for your pet. Next, we did a rather large review on the company Fromm. We did do dog foods and cat foods, and as we went through them and we checked them against the Pet Food Scoring system and the key nutrient ingredients, we did find a couple along that line that did score a 7. And so that was the Classic Senior and the Gold Senior. Now, it's important to remember that when we are picking foods, we need to, again, be looking at the nutrient levels and not necessarily just the name of the food, because as we went through Fromm, we actually found out that the Classic Senior and the Gold Senior were actually best when actually fed to an adult dog, not a senior at all. And so that's an important classification to remember. If we were feeding these to a senior, it actually would have scored quite a bit lower. And so from Fromm, if you're looking at that brand, you might want to consider looking at the Classic Senior and the Gold Senior, but feeding those to an adult dog and not necessarily a senior. We did do some pet food or pet store brands as well. And so we looked at Wholehearted. This is a Petco brand. We looked at both cat and dog. The cat one didn't score as well as the dog, but the dog version did score a 7. It was the beef for dogs. And again, this is a Petco variety, very easily found at Petco. Price point may be considered a budget food for many people. It did score a 7. And so if that's something that is interesting to you, this is one of those pet food and not necessarily boutique or prescription diets that may be more affordable and considered more a budget diet, scored a 7 from Petco, and that was the Wholehearted. We did also review a couple holistic brands. One of the ones that scored well was the Lotus Oven Baked, and so that food did round up to a 7. And so this is going to be more of a holistic brand. They describe themselves as a holistic brand and also an oven baked. And so if you're trying to get away from maybe some of those extruded type things, or you're trying to get away from that, the stigma of the kibble, this may be something to consider. It is still a dry food, so easily stored and easily packaged, but it is oven baked, and they do carry a claim that this diet is holistic. So if that is something that interests you, you may want to check out Lotus. We also did specifically look at some senior diets when fed to seniors, and so we did find the Science Diet 7+ Senior. It scored an 8 when fed to a senior, and so you can also look at these numbers and apply them to adults. There is no specific life stage that you will find on the AFCO statement for a senior. You will have all life stages, which is essentially a puppy food. You will have growth, lactating, and pregnant. That's obviously a puppy food, and then you will have adult. You will not specifically find a senior on the bag. And so in this video, we did go over, kind of that concept. And so when you're looking for a senior food, you have to take those standards that pertain to senior and look at the food, because it can say whatever name it wants on the bag, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is the perfect nutrition for that particular pet, as we saw with Fromm. But the Science Diet 7+ Senior did score an 8 when fed to a senior, so that might be something that you would consider if you have a pet that is of the age 7 or older. We're gonna see things like lower protein levels, we're gonna see things like lower fat levels, sometimes we're gonna see higher fiber levels to aid with digestion, and then we're gonna have very regulated minerals in a senior diet. That's what we're looking for, and that's what made the Science Diet 7+ an 8. After that, we got into some mega reviews. So I got into a kick with reviewing entire lines. And that's where we really start to see that amongst a brand, there may be several foods that are not so good options, but they may have like one of those gold star options, especially if you have your heart set on, for whatever reason, a specific brand. And so we did the entire NutriSource line. We did find that the senior formula, again, the senior formula did score a 7. That was the only one of the entire line that performed well. And again, it was a senior food that if you fed that food to your adult dog, was a pretty good option. So go ahead and check that video out if you need to see, see that worked out and see how that plays out. There were quite a few different bags that we went over, different flavors, things like a large breed adult, which a large breed adult is just a marketing thing. There is no such thing as a large breed adult requirement. The adult requirements, because the growth plates have closed after puppyhood, are the same for all dogs. And so we go over that a little bit more in that video, and you can check that out, and you can specifically check out the senior formula from NutriSource. Then we got into Farmina. I don't know why I got a kick on Farmina. I think that I got asked about Farmina so many times that I just decided to do the entire line. So we took probably a month going through every single one of the Farmina dry foods, cat and dog. Their lines are called N and D. They have the ocean, the grain, the pumpkin, the white, so on and so forth. Many of those foods fall into the ranges that we want to see. And so they have a very extensive line, very different ingredients, very different price points. They have some for the tear staining problem that we see in the white dogs. And so if you want to check that out, many options, 7 above, throughout that line. I have an entire playlist of just Farmina, Fun with Farmina, that you can check that out. And we go through and make these beautiful mega charts with all the nutrient parameters on there, and it's very clearly laid out if you would like to do that. So check them out, Farmina, lots of options, 7 and above. I did do some vegetarian diet, so there are some people out there that wish to do a vegetarian diet. I know there are some people who do not believe in that, but please, we need to respect other people's decisions, and we want to make sure that we can support them and provide a food for them that is nutritionally balanced. And so we did do that on that channel. And we found that Natural Balance, Limited Ingredient, Plant Power actually scored an 8, which was a lot higher than some of the non-vegetarian options. And so definitely respect people, that choose this option. It was a limited ingredient, so it may be appropriate for pets that, have food allergies to certain proteins. This may be appropriate, and it was very nicely balanced as an 8. And so if you're interested in a vegetarian diet, this year we did find the Natural Balance Limited Ingredient. That brought us into the fresh food craze, and we did a lot of fresh food options this year, but there weren't very many of them that lived up to the hype. And so yes, it is important, you know, that our ingredients are nutritious. And I do get that comment a lot. It is probably the #1 hate comment that I get in my comment section, is that I don't put enough emphasis on ingredients. And that's because that's not the purpose of this channel. The purpose of this channel is to determine foods that are nutritionally acceptable, and then you guys get to go out and find the ingredients that you find are important. There is a large spectrum of what people find in the ingredients that are important or not important, and that's for you guys to decide. All I'm telling you on this channel is what the nutrition is, of the food. If it's not nutritionally balanced, I don't think it matters to anybody. I think we can all agree on that. We all want a food that is nutritionally balanced, and then after that, it can be formulated however you want. So it could be a fresh food like we're going to talk about now. It could be a baked food like Lotus. It could be a home cooked food. Doesn't matter, as long as it's nutritionally balanced. That's what we're talking about here. And so one of the ones that we found that actually did live up to the hype was Evermore. They had a couple different options. We went through all of them. I found 2 that I thought you know, fit well according to the pet food scoring system, and that was their beef or chicken. They both scored a 7. You can go to that video and you can check that out. They are sending me all the time discount codes and updating that, and so those are in the description box, because a lot of these fresh foods can be quite costly. So that's another factor that is not factored into the pet food scoring system is cost. Cost is not always synonymous with quality. We have found that a lot on this channel, but you know, these fresh foods do tend to be a little bit more costly, so you know, look in the description box for a discount code on that, and hopefully it is available and works for you. But I would check out Evermore beef or chicken if you're looking for a fresh food option. We did another fresh food along that same line. Along that line, we did do just food for dogs. As we ran through the just food for dogs, we found out that for the dogs, it didn't quite stack up to where we wanted it to be. But for the cats, it actually was a pretty good option. And so this is going to roll us into some of the good cat options that we found this year. So if you're looking for a fresh food option, a subscription option for your cats, you may want to check out our fresh food, just food for life, aka just food for dogs video, and you may find some cat options there that interest you. Along the budget option, or the option that you can find in the pet store for cats, we found a couple different IAMS versions that fit very nicely into pet food scoring system. So they all scored an 8. In that video, we go into each one of those diets and the nutrient parameters. They were very easily found in, you know, Chewy, Walmart. Some of them are even in grocery stores like Publix or Kroger. And so we had 3 good IAMS options. Now again, IAMS is a huge brand. They have many, many, many foods, but there were 3 that we found that fit into the correct parameters. So go ahead and watch that video, and you can learn which 3 are the not perfect 3, but the 3 that most closely fall into the reference ranges that we're looking for cats. So that's an excellent budget option. IAMS is usually very affordable. Then we had Natural Balance. This is a Dick Van Patten food, and it started out with one of my Feline Friday series. I did try for a while to do exclusively feline only videos, and so we do have a Feline Fridays playlist of good options for cats. The Natural Balance is one of the highest scoring cat foods that we found that fit, you know, in the optimal nutrition range as demonstrated in small animal clinical nutrition. So cats have their own specific nutrient requirements. They are different than dogs, they're different than humans, they're different than other species. And so we want to make sure that we're tailoring nutrition to them. And so Natural Balance scored a 9. You might want to check that out as well, as it was one of the highest cat scoring foods that we found in 2024. So that is gonna wrap it up. There are playlists for high scoring 7, 8, 9, and 10 cat and dog. There is also high scoring puppy as well, so you can check those playlists out. This was not an exhaustive list, but it was to give you a little taste of some of the most popular foods or most requested foods that scored well on the channel in 2024. I hope you guys have a wonderful 2025 with lots of wet kisses and wet noses throughout the year. And you guys will like and subscribe and hang out with me all throughout 2025. I hope you do, and I will see you guys the next time.